All right. So I am going to talk about my career timeline a little bit and kind of how I got to where I'm at right now and some of my experiences, if it will let me. Okay, there we go. Um, so here I'm kind of talking about how when I was younger, I really wanted to be a professional football player or really just like a professional athlete of some sort. I think that's a pretty common experience for a lot of young guys. We grew up watching sports. We see some of our favorite players, and all that comes with being a professional athlete. We're like, hey, that is really cool. So I was pretty similar. I didn't have a picture of that, so I used a baseball picture of me in high school. That's me running to, I think, home plate. Could be wrong about that. But yeah, I was told by my librarian because I shared that at school at one point when she was asking, and she said it wasn't realistic enough. Which was kind of true because to be the top 1% of athletes is not realistic for a lot of kids. But my mom was not very happy about that. She did not like to hear that my librarian told me that my dream was not realistic. Um, but yeah, to that end, my mom was a substance abuse counselor for a long time. She kind of stopped that when she had us kids. And my dad has been a longtime teacher and track coach, which is also factored in at points of my journey. I can talk about that more later. So yeah, people growing up also told my mom that they saw me becoming a pastor. Um, I think that speaks a little bit to where I'm at now, a little bit of not being in like a pastoral role, but being in a role where I'm kind of helping people through problems that are coming up, what they're facing in somewhat of a pastoral way. I really don't enjoy teaching. I don't enjoy speaking for long periods of time. And so being like an actual teaching or like speaking pastor would not be my gig. But that's what people told my mom for a long time. Um, And along with that, like I had a lot of really positive experiences in youth group and at church camp growing up, which I think kind of affirmed that for my mom and her friends of it's a huge interest for him. He really enjoys learning about theology, um, talking about faith-related things, and just really, really enjoying being with that group of guys pictured there through middle and high school. That was kind of like my tight-knit group of friends throughout that time. Um, yeah, and I don't feel like I was in a huge, I don't know if culture is the right word, but I wasn't really around many people talking about for sure, like this is what I want to do for a career job. This is kind of what I want to pursue. It was more so about athletics and like doing well in school at the time. Um, and so I kind of was no different in that way. I was really focused on doing well in sports because that's kind of what was expected in some ways. I was really focused on academically doing well and putting myself in positions to make decisions later, but not forward thinking necessarily to like what that might be. Um, in high school, I worked as a grocery clerk. I bagged groceries. I got carts. I worked in hospitality, kind of like a catering job, helping with events. So those were kind of my high school experiences. Um, and then, yeah, this also talks about when I was 16. So the youth group picture I showed previously, one of the guys, actually not in that picture, but in many of our pictures, passed away, one of our really, really good friends. And that kind of introduced me to the topic of mental health. Obviously, that was really hard for all of us. It was really hard for me. Um, and before that, I didn't really have a view or like a framework of, I don't even really think I thought about mental health too much. My mom mentioned it every now and then of like, if you need a mental health day for middle school, like we'll take it, with her counseling experience. But yeah, so what's pictured there is a memorial we built for him behind our church. Um, And yeah, that's kind of like a lasting memory to commemorate him, but also like, I don't know, has helped me reflect on kind of what brought me to the field in a lot of ways. Going into college too, I had a really impressive 0%, what they called it, like a commitment to college. It was some sort of item on one of the assessments we took for college my freshman year of like, what do you want to do? What majors fit for you? What's your commitment level to, where you're at right now? And like being able to be motivated to put in the work towards what you want to do. And I was like very motivated. I did very well in my classes, but I had a 0% commitment because I had zero idea what I wanted to do. So I ended up taking like philosophy courses, um, took what else? Some psychology, some human services. I guess that's what I'm talking about here too. Um, but really didn't have a firm idea of like why or like what that was, to what end I was doing those things. So really was figuring that out. And yeah, interest wise, figuring out like what I wanted to do, but not knowing. At that time, I had a lot of friends experiencing difficulties with mental health, and like that conversation continued from high school of people around me are really struggling, a lot of like depression, suicide conversation, anxiety, obviously, and not really knowing like how to help, but being a person that, I mean, with a lot of us, like people were leaning on, um, people like wanted support from. And so being in some of those roles, like informally, um, a lot of my jobs, I'll talk about this later, I'm sure, but a lot of my jobs in college were like ABA type work of um, applied behavior analysis, working with autistic people, young and older, and yeah, ADHD, and working in spaces of like meeting behavioral goals. Um, so I was doing that. I was on the track team, again, like athletics being such a big part of my childhood that I was kind of told in a lot of ways, like you're either doing athletics or working, and my parents were okay in a lot of ways if I was doing athletics and not working. And so being a college athlete, like I was doing a lot of track and field year round and not a ton of working. I was really privileged in a lot of those ways. Um, but one of the things I did do, pictured here, is I went to camp a lot and ended up working at camp for 2 summers on staff, one of which I met my wife, Ellie, now. But pictured here is Josiah Livingston. If you remember Dr. Baraka, I don't know if you'll grade this or not, but he was one of your students, probably Josiah's senior year in undergrad. So kind of a fun little connection. But I loved this job. I loved working. I was on the program team working in a space where like I got to interact directly with campers, got to have a big part in like how the program unfolds, like how do we interact with them? How do we create spaces where they can connect interpersonally and get to communicate again, like what they're feeling, express kind of what they're going through and grow spiritually. A lot of things that I'm taking with me as a counselor, honestly, and trying to create similar spaces in a different way, somewhat. Um, so that being a job I really enjoyed, ABA being a job that has helped me experience-wise, there's been a lot of good in it. I've learned a lot of like clinical note taking, documentation, a lot of language around behavioral science, how to do behavioral science in a personable way, but did not super love my ABA jobs. A lot of them could be like well critiqued as being not like promoting autonomy all the time or to like, I don't know, jobs that felt mundane to me. And so it just had to feel mundane in some ways to some of the individuals we were working with too. So to that point, like I loved using valued using science to help people, but really loved like deep interpersonal spaces, places where I could use some like creativity and artistic vision to, guide, approach people, guide them towards some of their goals or healing or growth or whatever that might be. So, um, yeah, a little bit more. My mom recommended that I consider pursuing like an MSW. So going into social work. She probably would have done that if she continued. She was like, hey, you should consider that too. Um, my wife Ellie said, consider Wheaton College because I toured there and it was a really great school. She still jokes that Covenant College is better, but um, that has been my experience since I've been here. I have loved it. I've loved integrating, again, like things I've been really interested in for a long time of theology, faith, with roles I've really enjoyed of helping to kind of guide, develop people while I'm kind of forming myself and learning myself in different ways, because I really enjoy learning and getting to bring all of those to the table in counseling of how can I serve people and learn about myself and yeah, use like some artistic, creative elements as well and how I'm approaching my work in ways that I haven't before. In behavioral sciences, a lot of the work was very straightforward of you apply this. And it was like helpful for the time. Hopefully it was helpful for the individuals we tried to serve, but finding a lot of benefit and having a little bit more range and flexibility in what I do. And so now I'm at a job where I'm actually currently here in Stephanie Griswold's office, doing a job I really, really enjoy at Outreach, at York and really loving. And it's affirmed my interest in working in community settings and working to make counseling accessible, having some creative like license and freedoms in what I'm doing, serving people, helping to develop people based on like their goals, while also doing a lot of like my own work of what's been formative for me and who I am as a counselor coming into the room. And so that's been a job that it's been really challenging for sure, but I've really enjoyed in a lot of ways too. So yeah, I think there's pieces along the way of, if I had to wrap it up, of like struggles of me and my friends, experiencing a lot of grief, mental health concerns in college, helping people in those ways informally, doing jobs I didn't super enjoy, but finding some jobs along the way that I really did enjoy, but knew couldn't last forever, like camp. And so really wondering like how I might like work on a team and work in a space where I can help in like a programming developing way and try to serve people through like mental health care in an artistic, creative way. Um, and right now, finding a lot of that in what I'm doing, which has been really cool. So, yeah, that's what I've got so far. I'm sure there's stuff I missed, but that's where we're at. Thanks for watching. If I can find the stop record button.